Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I'll Watch What They're Watching, where we're curious and adamant about cinema. I am one of your hosts. I'm Kyrie.
And I'm Adam.
And today we're kind of doing a little, almost like a back-to-school themed top 3. It was recommended or encouraged by some listeners. So we're going to be kind of doing a coming-of-age top 3. But first, I know that we both got to Spider-Man.
Yeah, speaking of back to school in a way, that's kind of a very Spider-Man type, I feel like it's on theme in a lot of different ways. But yeah,
Agreed.
first Marvel movie I've seen in theaters since Guardians of the Galaxy 3, 4, 3? I don't know.
3.
And before that one was Endgame. So I have not seen... Unless, when did No Way Home come out? After Endgame?
No Way Home was after Endgame, yeah.
Okay, so I saw that one, and that was the last one, and then Guardians, and then this, and you've seen even less, right?
Yeah, the last Marvel movie I saw in theaters, I believe, was Black Panther. Not Wakanda Forever, the first one.
Right, and in your defense, you are more of a DC dude. Although
Yes.
You aren't necessarily DC Comics, not necessarily the movies, which has been a dumpster fire for many, many years.
Yeah, I am a DC diehard. I think the backstories are more interesting. I think the characters are more interesting. There's just things about DC Comics that I prefer. As far as the movies go, I really like the first Wonder Woman. And I really quite liked the most recent Superman.
Right.
So definitely those two. I still have not gotten around to Supergirl. From people I trust who like DC, I've heard like it's fun enough. So I don't know. I keep going back and forth on it. And I really love a lot of the DC animated movies that they keep cranking out.
Sure.
And I do like Marvel. Like, I like the comics quite a bit. I find Spider-Man to be one of the most interesting Marvel characters. And I don't know. I have gripes with just the MCU in general. And I think part of that was, like, that's the thing is people are like, oh, you hate Marvel. I'm like, I don't hate Marvel. I really quite enjoy the comics. I own some of them. But I feel like the MCU got a little bit out of hand. I'll talk about this a little bit. I don't want to go too spoiler heavy with Spider-Man, but I don't know. I kind of think that Disney doesn't entirely know what to do with it now, and I also got kind of just annoyed with the whole, like, all of a sudden everyone was like, oh my gosh, I love Marvel, and I'm like, and this is me being pretentious, but I'm like, you love the MCU. What Marvel comics have you read? Do you know about the character Squirrel Girl? Because she's in the comics, but you don't know her. So that's kind of my thing too, is I'm just like, the MCU to me is not necessarily like Marvel as a whole.
Yeah, I think there is a really cool feeling when you're watching something or even reading something and like they introduce something or something happens that like you know of and it's in a different way from something else that comes into this interconnected world that can sometimes be really magical and can sometimes feel really cool. And so I think maybe we'll have to do a big Marvel marathon sometime. I did one during COVID up to pretty much everything that was released up to COVID. We watched all of those around that time. But
dang.
So I think that like I understand that and I understand that appeal, and I think it just got out of hand. I just saw a reel today where they were, it was Elizabeth Olsen, and she was doing a press interview and she was talking about Doctor Strange 2, which I know you haven't seen, and WandaVision, which I'm pretty sure you haven't seen.
I haven't seen, but I know enough about this. I'm in touch enough with pop culture that I know some of the stories and themes.
And that's a really interesting time because that's right about when I dipped. You know, I was there for WandaVision, the TV show, and really liked it. We really had a good time with it. And she was kind of talking about, as they were filming Doctor Strange, she's like, hey, this doesn't really make sense for my character that I just did for WandaVision.
Yeah.
You haven't seen WandaVision yet because it's not out yet. And so she talks about how she had to like play the character differently. And I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
a big
unfortunate.
rub for me. Like it just doesn't work. Like I think, but then shifting the conversation back, now we're back on Spider-Man. I think all these iterations of Spider-Man do work so well because of
Hmm.
the timing of all of them, and they all feel so like unique and fresh for the time that they were in. They feel like little pockets of early 2000s, right, with Toby, and then
Right.
Andrew Garfield, the 2010s, and then Tom Holland just feels like modern day. So it just, I like that aspect of it. And I like Spider-Man movies. Sue me. What are you gonna do? You know, there
Yeah.
isn't one that I can look to that says that was a stinker. I like all of them.
Well, and what I ended up saying about this one, because I really quite liked this one quite a bit. What I really liked about it was, first of all, I've said before, I really love the Spider-Man comics. And
Hmm.
some of my favorite Spider-Man arcs are actually college Spider-Man, like college Peter Parker. And I will say, like, with when Tom Holland started, it was like, okay, here's high school Peter yet again.
Sure.
And so I liked this phase we're in now. I like that it's no longer like kind of baby teenage Peter Parker, like we're kind of entering young adult Spider-Man. And I love what I've really loved about Spider-Man previously is like friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Avengers is like kind of the global, big, massive. The DC version of it is like there's even a small arc in Justice League Unlimited where like Justice League handles these big problems. They want Oliver Queen, Green Arrow, to join. And he's like, if I join this group of superpower superheroes, like who's going to look out for the little guy? Like that's my job. I just look out for the little guy. And that's kind of how I feel about this is like, yeah, sure. Bring your Thanos, bring your Doctor Doom or whatever for the Avengers. But when you're doing kind of these individual ones, like we don't necessarily need all the interconnectedness. I
Mhm.
just wanted like a down to earth, like just Spider-Man loving New York City and New York City loving Spider-Man. Like
Yeah, and I think
that's what
that
I
is,
want. And that's what I got.
yeah, I agree. I think that I here's my take on this movie. And again, the 99% of people are much more positive on this movie than I am. And I recognize that. And I'm not trying to bash it. I'm not trying to be grumpy. I'm not trying to be pretentious. I'm just, here's where I'm at. I don't think that it was that interesting of a story, if I'm being honest. And
Interesting. Okay.
and I think there were different emotional beats or like internal struggles that I'm like, I'm not really invested in this because I know current day Marvel doesn't have the
Mm,
guts to really do anything interesting. So it's like, yeah, I kind of know these beats and how they're going to play out. And I don't necessarily hate watching it. Like I'll sit there and watch it. I just don't
yeah.
know that it was the most interesting thing in the world for me. And honestly, I think almost every other Spider-Man movie I probably like better than this one. But again, as I said, I like Spider-Man movies, and so
Yeah.
I'm not knocking that by any means. I'm just saying this one was just kind of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think
But
I,
again, conceptually, sorry, I just have to say
no, you're good.
conceptually, yes, I love this direction. And if every Marvel movie was in this same vein again of just like normal things, like normal stakes, like still big things and big stakes happening, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a breath of fresh air and I liked the direction they were going. Just like I said, it just didn't hit for me, whatever reason.
I think what worked about earlier Marvel was that each solo movie was a little bit more of its standalone thing.
Yeah.
You know, you could pick up Winter Soldier and watch it and have your little romp with a few characters and be fine. And I feel like Marvel has been trying to almost be like every movie is almost like a team effort. Like the Eternals, here's this team, and Thunderbolts, the new
Hmm.
Avengers, here's this team. And it's like, we don't necessarily need a big team every single movie. I like the one of the characters talking to Peter, she's like, this is small potatoes. Like the
Right.
new Avengers, we deal with the big potatoes. that's kind of the thing is I'm like, for these solo movies, I kind of want small potatoes.
Right.
I like that this is very personal to Peter Parker, to Spider-Man. And there was a couple moments where I felt a little lost in the sauce, but like, kind of I think where Marvel lost me a little bit too was I was like, I don't want to have to watch 3 TV shows and 2 movies just to understand what's happening in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Exactly.
And so, I don't know, I like the big ensemble cast moments. I just think we need to stop trying to make that every single movie. Because I laughed more in this Marvel movie than I have in a while. I liked Tom Holland's Spider-Man in this one. I liked that everything felt down to earth and more personal, more small potatoes. My concern, I think this kind of buys into some of the things that you're saying. There were moments where it felt a little bit too like that. This isn't a huge spoiler. We didn't need the Hulk. We didn't need to see the Hulk. That wasn't necessary. The reveal of Sadie Sink's character was something that I had already kind of guessed, and that also felt a little tired to me. And then there's these 2 tropes that I feel like Disney just is latching onto that I am really not vibing with right now. And one of them is they're doing like this bait and switch thing with, okay, what's happening with villains is the villain is either there is no villain, like the villain is trauma or systems or whatever, or it's this bait and switch that I kind of feel like Big Hero 6 started off where it's like, you really think this is the bad guy, but no, wait, it's actually this person. And so like,
right.
Spider-Man started and Spider-Man goes in, we know, okay, the villain seems to be this person who can just drop into people's minds and bodies. Okay. But then you meet this guy like a good 20, 30 minutes in and I was like, he's obviously the villain.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously got some, he's a bad dude. And so that I was like, okay, well, this is predictable and boring. And they did that, like, as I was sitting here thinking about it, the 2 most recent other Disney movies I've seen, except Toy Story 5, were Mandalorian and Grogu and Zootopia 2. So, light spoilers for those. They kind of did a bait and switch villain with both of those. They really did it with Zootopia 2. They kind of did it with Mandalorian versus Grogu. And another thing that Disney seems to be doing is they want to have the emotional impact of like a character death without actually having to do the hard work of the fallout of that afterwards. So like, we talked about this on the Mandalorian and Grogu episode. Mando gets wounded and you and I are both sitting there just kind of like, okay, like, chop, chop. Let's move on because we know Mando's not going to die. And so it's just like 10 to 20 minutes of Grogu like puttering around trying to save Mando and like Grogu's cute, but I'm like, we know Mando's not going to die. We know, so like chop, chop, like we've got things to do. We've got places to be. Exactly. And like Zootopia 2 did the same thing. It was like, Judy's really injured. Oh, she's going to die. Oh, we're going to have this really emotional impact moment. And then it's like, just kidding. She's not really dead. And like, Spider-Man is injured in this one. I liked it. The only reason I liked it this time was it felt less like we're going to have this really emotional moment, but not really. It felt like Spider-Man needed to see how much New York valued him. Mm-hmm. And by being critically injured, he was able to kind of see that. And I feel like that helped his character arc in this film. So I'm a little bit like, okay, I can forgive you. Because the minute he got injured, I rolled my eyes. Like, physically, I was like, oh my gosh. Of course.
Yeah.
Oh no, Spider-Man, is he going to be okay? Of course he's going to be okay. So.
Right.
I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I liked that it was a little bit more down to earth. I liked that it was friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I liked that it was a little bit more contained and focused more on the character and less on just like the massive CGI battles and stuff. That being said, I'm still seeing some Disney tropes that I'm like, all right, sure, put these in, I guess.
Yeah. No, well put.
So that's my 2 cents. But I would recommend it. I would say if you're a Spider-Man or superhero or MCU fan, like, I really was not looking forward to it. And I got sucked in pretty quick. I had a fun time with it.
Yeah, agreed. I think too, if you're like somewhat casual, but still know like enough about superheroes and comics and whatever. Not gonna lie, the reveal of Sadie Sink's character did gag me a little bit. I was like, oh. So that I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't have it spoiled for me, but it was something where like I'm on social media and I know comics, and so enough people were speculating about some doomsday stuff, and we're talking about a certain superhero group that is going to be getting some sort of a reboot, so to speak, and so it was really easy for me to piece together. Like within a couple days, I was like, pretty sure I know who Sadie Sink is.
Yeah, but pretty cool. I think we both gave this movie 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely.
And definitely on the higher end of 3.5 for me. Like I had a very good time.
Yeah, a good time. So I think it set the record for the fastest movie to $1 billion. It set the first weekend record, I believe, passing Endgame.
Past Endgame.
So, I don't know, Marvel is still alive and well.
They still got the juice.
They still got the juice, as they say. So, it'll be interesting to see how things end up for Doomsday and the like. So, we'll be there, I guess.
No, agreed. But was there anything else you had a chance to see, either in theaters or otherwise?
No, I've been pretty slow lately. So just a couple movies for our upcoming episode, which is going to be a hoot and a half when we get to that one.
Yes.
But no, let's talk about coming of age movies, which I think you found this a little bit more challenging to find movies coming of age. I feel like for me, I'm just not remembering, because I feel like I've seen way more than what I ended up with my list, but I'm pretty satisfied with my list, and I think I do quite like coming of age movies, if I'm being honest with myself.
Okay. Yeah, I think part of it was I was trying to decide if I was going to skew more coming of age or skew more high school. Because I feel like, for example, like 10 Things I Hate About You, to me seems more, and Grease, they seem more like high school movies, not necessarily coming of age, but the biggest thing I felt like I was bumping up against was I would see these lists and part of it is I haven't seen some of the classics, I haven't seen Stand By Me, and it's been forever since I've seen The Breakfast Club, but a lot of the ones that were on these lists, I was like, that technically qualifies, but to me, it almost feels like it's more something else. Like, I saw How to Train Your Dragon on some lists. I saw Wizard of Oz, and I was like, yeah, technically those are coming-of-age stories. That doesn't feel like what they are kind of at their essence. So I don't know. I don't know exactly how to verbalize how I chose coming of age other than just like vibes. But I think for me, like the themes that had to be present was almost like they are going from one phase of life to another.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, and one of my middle one kind of breaks this a little bit, but like it didn't have to necessarily be something like miraculous. There didn't have to, there was a hero's journey, but there wasn't your typical, like, there was a journey, it wasn't your typical hero's journey of like, there's a big event or magical, influence or a big battle at the end or anything. I mostly just went off of like, this is a movie about a character growing up. And what that means now that as they're entering a new phase of life. I don't know that I care for these much, but that being said, I also haven't seen some classics, but all three that I've picked are ones that I really enjoy.
Awesome. I'm going to jump in with some honorable mentions. I have a few.
Yes.
And I think this is interesting. I think two of my honorable mentions are probably better movies than any in my top three. But I think I'm just going to stick with my top three as top coming of age movies, even though these movies are better movies, I think.
Yes.
And one of them, we actually talked about both of them, The Holdovers, which I talked about, I believe, in our Christmas
Yeah.
episode. I can't remember for sure, but I would definitely put that as a top coming of age movie. But I would also throw it on every holiday season, so it just kind of works out that way.
Yeah.
The other I gave you a really hard time about this afternoon,
Yes.
when you were saying you're having a hard time picking them, and I said, Carrie, one of your favorite movies, I can't believe you're not thinking of this, and that's Kiki's Delivery Service, a Studio Ghibli film that I just adore, and I think it has one of the most refreshing. So here's why I like coming of age films so often, is because they usually don't wrap it up. They usually don't come to this end of like, wow, we've achieved this great thing and we have this great ending. I'm going to contradict myself with my number one pick. But for the most part, I feel like I really love when a coming of age movie just kind of like settles into this accepted normal of how things are going to be. So Kiki's Delivery Service, I think, does a fantastic job with that, of just like taking a step back and taking a breath and just like rediscovering some of that magic, even though like your circumstances aren't necessarily changing. You're just kind of like changing your attitude and mindset about how you're going to move forward with things. And I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think coming of age movies, it's more like the end of a chapter rather than the end of a novel or a series. Like it's very clearly not the end. You've gotten to like a quote like stopping point without necessarily reaching like the end. So yeah, I think that is a really good way to put it. I also had a couple of honorable.
I did have to shout out one more really quick. Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
And that is 2024's Dee Dee. And this is a movie, I think it like premiered at Sundance and it won an award or something like that. But it's about a Taiwanese American 13-year-old boy. But what makes this movie so good is that it's set in 2008, which is right around, like it's still like it's like a new age coming of age movie where it's like you're seeing so many things that I'm really resonating with in a way that's like uncomfortable. Sort of like, I won't spoil it, but one of the movies that you'll talk about like just makes me so uncomfortable because of how real so much of it is and feels. And I'm like, you watch it and you're just like, oh my gosh, how did any of us survive? And so I think that's how Dee Dee, where it's like the intersection between fully online and not, of like kind of growing up in that period of time, which I really resonate with, of like, having the family computer you could log into Facebook on, but then your other siblings use it. And so it just does all of those things really well. And I know it's one that's not as well known, so I wanted to make sure I shouted that one out as definitely recommend for a coming of age movie. Definitely one that makes you squirm a little bit, but in the best way. So
yeah, I did have some Studio Ghibli ones come to mind. The only reason I didn't pick Spirited Away was the one that most readily came to mind. The only reason I didn't pick them was because I was like, well, we have just recently talked about Studio Ghibli. And I didn't want to I have one animated pick on my list, and I didn't want to have like the majority animated because I mentioned this one, like How to Train Your Dragon was another one that came to mind.
Right.
Coraline was one that I was like, that could work. There's also one similar, kind of what you talked about, where just really a hard one for me to watch, but really interesting intersectional film about a young queer woman of color called Pariah. And that also is very, very good. It came out in 2011.
I don't think I know that one at all.
I had to watch it for school, and it was very hard to watch because I do not understand how someone can just decide to stop loving their child. But I also, it was a very interesting kind of intersectional film. I mean, we've also talked about, this was another one I picked, but I was like, we've talked about it recently, and I feel like there's more to it. The Half of It.
Yeah.
And that same director did a movie that I recently got on the Criterion Collection called Saving Face, which, same thing, it doesn't feel like a coming of age movie, but it does definitely kind of feel like someone coming into a new phase of life. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting which movies we actually landed on. I think your honorable mentions are all I would the ones that I've seen. I would definitely second what you said. Do you wanna kick off with your number 3?
Yeah, definitely. My number 3 is 2013 coming of age movie called The Way, Way Back. I don't know if you've heard or seen of this. Directed and written by Nat Faxon and Jim Rash. You would recognize Jim Rash if you don't know.
I've
and
seen
probably
this movie, but it's been
okay.
I don't remember any of it.
Okay. Jim Rash, the dean in Community, for anyone that's seen Community, or just like a recognizable guy you just notice in like comedies and things like that. And so he's in this and he's funny. This movie has a ton of people in it that are like all really good actors. So like Steve Carell plays the mean boyfriend. So it's basically about a kid and his mom, and they're going to like a summer vacation house with the mom's boyfriend, and he hates the mom's boyfriend. And again, played by Steve Carell. And it's just like, I love Steve Carell, and I think he is a great actor. And so when you get Steve Carell in a situation like this, where he is not funny at all, he is just an a-hole.
Yeah.
I think that's just fun to watch. And then you have Sam Rockwell, who is sort of the spiritual guide for the, coming of ageness of it, of like sort of teaching him and helping him to get to where he needs to be. And then Toni Collette plays his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one that's just like, I think it hits all the tropes, this awkward boy and being uncomfortable around the teenage girls around him and all these different things. The kid that is great. He's, for anyone that watches Psych, he's one of the young Sean Spencers in like the flashbacks in the beginning of the episodes. But it captures sort of the loneliness, sort of the awkwardness of just like not fitting in, but then finding that sort of ragtag group of people in a unique situation that like you find meaning in. And right. I love that aspect of it. And I think that's what I love watching in coming of age movies, because I think everybody out there has their own set of unique interests. They have their own set of things that make them who they are. And it's such a hard thing, but sometimes all it takes is just like finding that one person, finding that group of people, finding that one thing, that community that you can like have an identity with outside of, your family or school or whatever it may be. And so watching him like come into his own and find that is really cool. And then, yeah, so I love this movie. It's one of Allie's favorites. And so we've watched it a few times together, and I really like it.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now because you're making me want to revisit it, because I have seen it, but it's been ages. Yeah.
Right.
Good pick.
All right, throwing it over to you.
Yeah, so mine around the same time, but it's 2 years later, 2015. So this is 2015's Brooklyn. Director is John Crowley. Screenplay by Nick Hornby. Novel was written by Colm Toybin? I don't know. Starring Saoirse Ronan, Emery Cohen, Domhnall Gleeson. Have you seen this one?
I haven't, no.
I find it very lovely. The premise is Saoirse Ronan plays this young Irish woman who's going to go like to the US, learn, bookkeeping, make something of herself. And so she leaves Ireland, and it starts with her just starting to leave home. She's leaving her mom and her sister, who she's very, very close with. And it shows a lot of coming of age themes. You have a lot of the homesickness, even the journey across. She's on this ship. She ends up finding another woman who has lived, who is also Irish, but has lived in the US for a while. And she kind of shows her the ropes of, this is kind of how you navigate your way on on the ship. This is what you're going to do when you get to the US. But yeah, she ends up meeting this young Italian-American man named Tony, and they fall in love. And this isn't a huge spoiler because this happens partway through. Her sister is very sick, and she ends up having to go back to Ireland. So she goes back to Ireland, and Tony basically is like, hey, I feel like if you go to Ireland, you're not going to come back.
Sure.
And she's like, no, of course I will. So they, very spur of the moment, they get married before she goes back to Ireland. And she goes back to Ireland. Domhnall Gleeson kind of plays another handsome Irish man, vying for her affection. And so that's kind of, but it's her figuring out the US and, America and relationships. There's a brief scene that kind of has like some of the sexual awakening that I feel like you see in coming of age films, and then a full circle ending. The ending is kind of her taking on the mentor role. When she first is coming over to the US in the ship, she has someone who kind of takes her under her wing, teaches her a little bit, and the final scene has her, coming back to the US, and there's a young Irish woman who is like kind of in her exact spot, at the beginning of the film going, I'm excited, but I'm nervous and I'm scared. And she kind of does the same thing. She's like, you're going to feel so homesick, you're going to die, but you just got to stick with it because you're going to meet amazing people and you're going to have these experiences. And so kind of what you said, it's this beautiful closing of a chapter where she's entering kind of a new phase of life. It's really lovely. Honestly, like there's nothing that like packs a punch about it other than I just think it got 3 Oscar nominations. Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Saoirse Ronan for lead actress. She's wonderful. It's a really, it's a lovely, wonderful, kind of romance that's more of a dramatic romance without being tragic, I think. And I love it. I feel like it's very much kind of how there's like easy listening music. This is kind of an easy watching movie. Like you're not going to have you're not going to cry a lot. You're not going to have moments where you're super, super stressed out of your mind too much. But it's really cool just seeing the journey that this woman goes on and kind of becoming who she is and becoming her own person and becoming an adult as she comes to America. So I think it's a lovely, and it's set in like the 50s, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's a lovely film.
I just have to say, Saoirse Ronan is like my biggest blind spot of a actress of all time. I don't think I've seen a single movie with her in it.
Are you serious? You haven't seen Little Women?
Yeah. No. Like I know she's great. I know she's one of a great working actress. I haven't seen anything with her in it yet.
Well, I'm going to make a note for some future Arts v Charts because I think Saoirse Ronan is stupendous.
Yeah, no, I've heard only good things, so pretty funny. Cool.
Well, what's your number 2?
Gosh, I just have this nagging feeling that I've talked about my 1 and 2 on this podcast before. I hope just mention them instead of full out talking about them, but if I have talked about them, big apologies in advance. My number 2 is Sing Street. Again, follows all the tropes you want to see in coming of age, not fitting in at all, just lost and home life sucks and has no passion. And then something just clicks one day. And in this case, they're in Ireland, have thick Irish accents. It's some of these kids, you can't understand a thing they're saying, and it's so fun to watch because you're just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
But the thing he finds is music. He forms a band with these kids. They're terrible, but then they work it out, and it's set in like the 80s, and so you're getting a lot of like Duran Duran vibes and stuff like that, which is just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And eventually this similar kind of thing of like, he finds his identity, he finds this meaning, it's also a love story. So he's trying to get the girl, but then that opens up this other big thing that she is this girl in a really bad situation, and he's trying to deal with that, and they're dealing with a lot of really mature themes that they shouldn't have to be dealing with. So it kind of has that aspect of the coming of age in a circumstance that you shouldn't have to. You're kind of forced into it.
Right.
The music in this is genuinely good in this movie musical. Still stuff that I listen to this day. And have you seen this movie?
I haven't.
I think you would really love this one. This is one of those ones that like is a high recommend from me for like just about anybody that I meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems like it almost has light, like School of Rock vibes.
I would say that. I would say there are like, you could get some same vibes. So it's kind of a mishmash, but a little grittier, a little bit.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, a little bit darker themes. And again, more of that coming of age thing that we're talking about of, a big misfit and coming into his own. And yeah, I think just the uniqueness of it being set in Ireland gets a lot of points to it. The music gets a lot of points to it. It's funny. Yeah, highly recommend. This is a great one.
The writer-director also has done another movie that got a lot of buzz that came out quite a bit earlier. Have you seen Once?
No, it's been on my watch list for a while. This guy also just did Power Ballad, the new movie with Nick Jonas and Paul Rudd, which I've heard good things about. I just didn't get to the theater to see it. But I've heard Once is good.
I think you would like Once. I'd be curious to see kind of what your thoughts are on that. But I'm definitely intrigued.
I'll have to get to Once and Power Ballad sometime soon.
Yeah. No, like I said, I like looking up these movies as you name them. And so I may sound distracted, but it's because I'm going, oh, this looks cool. Got to add this to my watch list.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I'm intrigued for sure. So one of the ones that I really wanted to pick because I felt like it had some themes was a movie, one of my very, very favorites. You and I have mentioned it on the podcast before, and that's Your Name.
Sure.
I love Your Name.
Yeah,
very timely too because it's getting a 4K restoration
on Friday
in limited time right now. Yeah, love Your Name. Couple reasons I didn't pick it. One, I feel like there is more to it. Kind of like I said at the beginning, it's not purely a coming of age movie to me.
Sure.
It strikes me as a little bit more of a, I don't know, maybe kind of a romance, kind of a comedy. But I did find myself picking a different one. Oh, and the other reason I didn't pick it is because I'd love to do that for like an arts V-Charts or something. I'd love to spend a lot of time talking about it. And the top threes, I don't have as much time to really dive deep into it. But I did pick another movie by the writer-director of Your Name, Makoto Shinkai. And that is 2022's Suzume.
Okay.
So also written and directed by Makoto Shinkai. Starring, I'm probably going to butcher these, but Nanokahara, Hokuto Matsumura, and Eri Fukatsu. This is one that I struggled with a little bit. I mean, gorgeous visuals. It does kind of feel like, I almost feel like it has a fourth act. Like I feel like you have act 1, 2, and 3, and then it's like,
really?
And here's another 45 minutes.
No kidding.
And so I remember feeling that at the time, being like, I feel like you have a climax at about the halfway point, and then you have more.
Interesting.
But that being said, the extra stuff made me, the first time I watched it, I was alone in the theater, and I like ugly sobbed to the point that I was at the Alamo Draft House and I had napkins because I ordered food, to the point that like they brought me, without being prompted, they brought me more napkins because I had just gotten like snot and tears all over the napkins that they had brought me because I was sobbing so hard, because I love a scene, and I won't talk about it much. I really, because I don't want to spoil it. I think it's a gorgeous scene. But Makoto Shinkai actually said that, as well as a couple other films and stories, Kiki's Delivery Service did have some inspiration for this. Because he said he felt like with Your Name especially, but also with Weathering With You, it was very focused on the romance. He said especially Your Name. Like Your Name, he got to really play with a lot of romance tropes. He really wanted to do the will they, won't they, kind of the begrudging, not enemies to lovers, but kind of the, annoyances to lovers, and he really kind of wanted to play with a lot of the, the kind of star-crossed themes, et cetera, et cetera. With this one, he really wanted to focus on like the human story.
Okay.
And so he actually said, because I think there are some romantic themes. That being said, he's like, the main lead is a woman, but he goes, I could have made it a man. I could have made it someone non-binary, and it still would have had the same general story. But it has, the main story is kind of similar to Your Name and Weathering with You. There are kind of some supernatural things happening, some earthquakes, tsunamis, and you end up kind of figuring out what's going on with that. And there was a really big tsunami in Japan that I'm drawing a blank on the exact year, but there's a lot of references to it and to the destruction that happened. And the main character has, lost family members in her childhood home and stuff to this cataclysmic event, basically. And so now she's in high school. And so it's kind of some of the similar things, girl in high school kind of goes on this magical journey. The main, male character spends a good chunk of the movie as, I forget exactly how or why, but spends a lot of it as a chair. So he's just this chair sort of hopping around. And that was one way for Makoto Shinkai to kind of be like, this isn't romantic because I'm not going to make this character like a sexy male. He spends most of the time as this three-legged yellow chair.
That's hilarious. I love it.
But it does kind of cover the scene that just broke me. Shows the main character kind of reconciling almost with her younger self.
Okay.
And some events that happened while she was younger. It shows some of her growth into adulthood, confronting some of these things, really kind of grappling with, what it means to now kind of enter this new phase of life, enter adulthood, and what that means. But there is some, some sort of fantastic elements to it, some still magical aspects. Just like Your Name, it's gorgeous. It's really just stunning to look at. The fact that this guy spends most of the movie as a chair is also just very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I do think it extends its welcome just a little too much, but again, the fact that I was just like a hot sobbing mess at the end of it, I was like, okay, you're forgiven. There's a few movies like that where I'm just like, if it hits the right things and just the moment, there are things I'm like, you get a pass. You get a pass because you made me feel this very strongly.
I love it.
But yeah, would totally recommend Suzume. I think it's a lovely, lovely film.
Perfect. I really want to watch that one.
I think you'd really like it.
I don't think you would guess my number one in a million years.
I don't think I would either. I have no idea. Sing Street, I had a hunch.
Sure. My number one is 2003's Holes.
Okay.
Yes. The movie based on the novel by Louis Sacher. I don't know. Sorry, Louis. Great book. And stars Shia LaBeouf and Sigourney Weaver and a bunch of other people. Dule Hill, obviously, in there, and other people. And I don't know. I just think this is we've talked about it a few times of
it's very fun.
Yeah, and you need, a movie for me, you need to have themes, you need to have a plot. The magic comes when those things come together. Mm-hmm. This is maybe a crazy take for me to say. This is up there for me with one of the best plots of a movie I can think of. I just think it is so engaging. It's one of those movies that if I walked in on it, no matter what point the movie was playing from, I would stand there and watch the rest of the movie. I feel like it's one of those movies.
Have you read the book?
I'm pretty sure. I don't remember for sure. I know my brother did. I don't know why I remember that, but I think I did because I know a couple things from the book that are different than the movie. Great book. But
I've read the book. I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I think it was Stephen King or no, wouldn't have been Stephen King. Maybe it was Steven Spielberg. Somebody said about Shawshank Redemption that it sticks to you like gum, and that basically if you see this movie on your TV, you're going to be glued to the screen, you're going to be watching it. And I feel like that's the same thing for this movie. And there's like, you know, intersecting plot lines, there's, you know, period pieces, there's myth, there's legend, there's all these different things that come together to like, and it's really, it's what I love about this movie is it's like, how do I put it? It's like it has all these myth and legends that are so far-fetched and so crazy, but then it's like such a real story, and it's nothing's terribly unbelievable about it when you watch the movie. It's like when you watch the actual events playing out, it's like nothing super crazy is happening, and so and I just love that aspect of it. But anyways, back to the like coming age of it, I think
also just real quick, Sigourney Weaver in this is like 10 out of 10 Sigourney Weaver.
Peak. Yeah, she's so good. My first interaction with her, and yeah, just a great. You know, this is long before Shia LaBeouf, the abuser, sort of took light. And there's a lot to unpack with that. But I think he's just magnetic in this movie. I think he is so fun to watch. He plays just the perfect sort of like, I don't know, perfect underdog, perfect guy that's just getting beat up, but like you're rooting for. His like little like scream cheer when Zero's running away. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's so good. And I think the ensemble cast of all the kids in the prison again. So it's not just Stanley growing up and coming of age. You kind of see everybody realize like we need to have each other's back, and we need to, you know, become outstanding young men. And I don't know. There's a lot of aspects of this that come together from that perspective of the coming of age. So that's where the themes come in really well, I think. And it does a good job doing all of that, and does a good job of like showing that some people are just like, I don't know what the right word is, but just like not given a fair shake. And there's like systematic issues at play with a lot of these things that are happening. And so you see some of that like justice come about at the end, which is what's the right word? Cathartic to be able to watch some of those things happen, similar to like a Shawshank type thing. But again, the plot is just so good. Like, I just think that all of these things are at a 10. Patricia Arquette, Dule Hill, like everyone is acting at the top of their game and just like delivering these incredible performances. I love this movie so much.
Yeah, I rewatched it a handful of years ago. You're making me want to watch it again. Like, that's the
I'm making myself rewatch it. I'm like, do I have time to watch this tonight? The music's great.
It's one of those, like, Disney had a moment where they were doing some live action movies that were like really, really solid. And I think to your point, there's a lot of like really goofy, but also very like rich and dynamic characters in this. And I feel like Shia LaBeouf does a really good job of kind of being the straight man in the chaos, but also still being like kind of a little bit goofy and a little bit funny, that he's likable and relatable, but it gives space for like Sigourney Weaver's character to really go, go for it. She knows the movie she's in. You're
right. He, at this age, and I think he does it pretty well in Transformers too, is he's a really good straight man that is funny. You know, like he's a straight man, but he's also really funny. And so it just like works really well with these characters in Holes. I'm not talking about Transformers, but I think he's really good.
Yeah, no, I think in here it makes it so that, some of these other really almost caricature-esque characters, kind of these goofier characters can really flourish. But he's likable and funny enough that he gives them space without he himself feeling overshadowed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is one of those movies too, and I apologize I don't have more like fun facts, but like this is one of those movies that it just feels like every now and again you'll stumble across some sort of fact about the filming of this movie that's just like, wow, that's really fun. Like that's so cool. And I think I saw one too the other day that was like, and I love this, I need to do this sometime, but it was where they do like meals throughout a movie. And so this was one that someone was doing. So they had like the sploosh and they had like,
yes,
peach pie, all these different things. It was so fun. So yeah, I just think this is a great movie. I think we need Disney to do more of these types of movies. I feel like it's been a long time since we've gotten this type of thing from like Disney itself. I can't even think what the last movie like this would have even been.
Yeah,
and you had
it's been
Enchanted a few years later, which I feel like is the same vein. But but you're right. There's like mid 90s to mid 2000s. They had a couple of these that they were kind of pumping out.
Princess Diaries is one that comes to mind, and yeah, no, for sure. I mean, never would have guessed it, but great pick, honestly. Really, really good pick. I think that perfectly encompasses, the coming of age idea. Good pick. So this is the one that like kind of readily came to mind where I was like, yes, I feel like this is, whereas I feel like some of the other, again, when I was trying to pick this list, I was like, where can I bend the rules so that I can make a movie that I like fit this coming of age theme? This one I was like, this is textbook coming of age, and this is a movie that I genuinely really love. And this is 2018's Eighth Grade. And it's directed and written by Bo Burnham, stars Elsie Fisher, who plays the littlest girl in the Despicable Me movies.
No
and Josh
kidding.
Hamilton. Yeah, did you not know that?
No, I didn't know that. It's also crazy that this is written and directed by Bo Burnham.
Yeah, bonkers.
That doesn't make any sense, but yeah.
I think this is almost a movie that I'm like, I think everyone should have to watch this thing.
It's a tough watch.
It is. I mean, I have, first of all, never seen a more accurate depiction of middle school.
Yeah.
It does a wonderful job of just showing, like, 8th graders are gross. 8th graders swear a lot. 8th graders think they're big and bad, and they're just children. Like, there's just so much about this movie and it very early on, one of the very first scenes is like her having a full-blown panic attack, and you feel like you're having a panic attack. Like, it is a movie that I'm like, yeah, this feels like hell on, this feels like a social interaction I had at 8th grade, aka this feels like hell on earth.
It is rough.
I think it perfectly kind of encompasses that step from middle school to high school. I do think that it's like the secondhand embarrassment is real. Like you said, there's aspects about this that it's rough. That being said, I think this is a very powerful movie. And the reason I say I think everyone needs to watch this is because I almost feel like the kids who were popular in middle school and high school need to kind of see what it's like on the other side. Sure. And I think that people who had a rough time in middle school and high school can feel some sort of solidarity with this.
Absolutely.
Because the movie is there. I don't want to necessarily really go into the plot because there's not much to it, but it's basically just this. There's this character, this main girl. She's in 8th grade. And she makes these goofy little YouTube videos. And right off the bat, it starts very uncomfortable, where the movie opens with her making this YouTube video and she is not well spoken and it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. But you see her go through she does have social anxiety and she has a hard time making friends and she feels out of place, and she's about to quote graduate 8th grade and move on to high school. And this isn't a huge spoiler, but you start to kind of see her realize, she has a first, it's very brief and very mild, but encounter with what sexual assault looks like. So again, trigger warning there. It's very brief, very mild, but I did want to say it because I think it's kind of a crucial plot point, but I do want people to be aware going into it that something like that is there. But the moment that I really was like, wow, this is a special movie, is when she asks her dad something like, are you sad that you have a daughter like me? Or something like that. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she goes, because I think if I had a daughter like me, it would make me sad. And he gives this little speech that the reason it's so good is because it's imperfect. Like, it is a dad who is trying to connect with his 14-year-old daughter and doesn't really know how. But he is just trying to convey to her that, like, she's exactly who she needs to be. And he is so proud of her, and she is perfect in his eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful film. It's there are moments that are uncomfortable. There are moments that you're like, yeah, like, to your point, how did we ever get through this phase of life? This is terrible.
Right.
But I think it just does a really good job of kind of showing you what an awful time that is, but also being like, you're gonna come out of it like stronger and better. And there are things that need to happen. And even though they're uncomfortable and they're painful and they suck, they help kind of form you into who you are and who you'll become.
Yeah.
And I think this movie paints that kind of perfectly. And like I said, I think it's really, I feel like a lot of times, like, these movies are almost like romanticized a little bit. Like, 10 Things I Hate About You in high school. I'm like, okay, most of this stuff doesn't really happen in high school and none of you look like your high school age. Everyone in this movie looks like they're in 8th grade.
Right. And acts like they're in 8th grade.
And acts like it. I guess originally, like, Bo Burnham was like, okay, so you're going to be on Facebook. And Elsie Fisher looked at him and she goes, no one uses Facebook anymore. So they changed it to Snapchat and Instagram because he was, like, basically behind the time. She was like, no one uses Facebook. What's wrong with you?
Amazing.
And just, yeah, I just think it does a great job of just being that age and trying to figure it out. And your body is changing and there are things that you want to know about, but you can't feel like you can ask your parents. And I don't know. I don't think I have seen a more accurate representation of this phase of life. And I think it has some really heartwarming moments that really hit home for me and made an impact. I think it's a beautiful, lovely, little independent film.
Yeah, really well put. I watched this in college. It was an option for an assignment. We had to pick one of a couple of different movies. And me being the bad boy that I was, I saw that this one was rated R, so I chose it. Which,
to be fair, Bo Burnham actually came and said about that too, because people were like, well, it's about 8th grade and, yet it's rated R. And Bo Burnham was basically like, their lives are rated R. They hear worse things at school. Let these, 14, 15-year-old kids come watch this movie.
Right. Yeah. Great. No, really well done. Great list.
Yeah, you too. Well, Adam, I got a question for you.
Yes.
What are we watching?
Some of us have already watched all of these, and we'll talk about it. And it's going to be a great episode. I'm really looking forward to it. Do the Right Thing, 1989 Spike Lee joint.
So to be clear, that's the name of the movie, is Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee's the director. That's just one of his things. He says Spike Lee joint.
Yes.
For the movie. And it's great. Yeah, I would recommend anybody watch that.
Agreed.
Well, yes, anyone should watch that, but
there's
may not.
Language.
Yeah, there's language. That's what I mean, Mom. There is language. So. And then Crash, 2004's Oscar-winning Best Picture over Brokeback Mountain.
Gosh.
Crash. One of us has not seen it. One of us has seen it. One of us cannot believe this movie was made, and the other gets to discover that for themselves. If you want to join in, it will be a fun conversation. Do the Right Thing and Crash for our next episode. Should be a good one. Here's always.
The thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I pick the Arts v Charts, I try to pick things that I think, like, we will enjoy or that will, like, open new doors, things that have been on our watch list. And you, Adam, you are like, how can we cause Curie the most amount of pain?
That's usually how it goes.
Pride Month, you made me watch Brokeback Mountain and Moonlight, which were beautiful films, but heartbreaking. And this time, you're forcing me to watch Crash, a movie I have, like, specifically avoided.
You have to watch Crash. It is Well, you have to because of this, but after having seen it now, everybody has to watch Crash so that we never let it happen again. So, anyways, as always, appreciate everyone that's listening. Like, subscribe, comment, 5-star review. You know the drill. Share with a friend. Talk to us about movies. And until next time.
Catch you later.